All right, we do this every year around this time.
Yep.
Badake and I are going to go back and forth doing a 2023 Dynasty Rookie Super
Come on,
Flex
baby.
draft. Okay, this is not tight end premium. It is Super Flex. It is PPR. So we are going to be drafting the rookies back and forth. I'm going to do you the great service of giving you the 101.
Stop it.
Now, look, you guys have to keep in mind that this will change over time. We are in January right now. This will absolutely change in the next couple of months. This is how we personally see these players. Now, why don't you guys comment down below as we go and tell us who you think should be higher, who you think should be lower. Do us a favor, drop a like on the video to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And why don't you comment down below your biggest sleeper in this class thus far. All right, Badake, I'm going to give you the 101. What are you thinking here?
I mean, there's no doubt about it. Let's get out the way. I think everyone can agree. It's Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas, a do-it-all guy. He's a game changer. Some people say the best prospect since Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley balling out, huh? But hey, we already know who it is. 101 Bijan Robinson.
Yeah. Was that you just wanted to say Saquon Barkley's name?
100%. There's no doubt about it.
All right.
Hey, we'll see what happens.
Okay, at the 102, I think you can go a lot of different ways here.
Yeah.
I've heard some people already making claims for Anthony Richardson. We'll talk about him in a second. I'm not comfortable doing that just yet. My quarterback one in the class right now, again, things could change, is Bryce Young. So I'm going to take Bryce Young here at the 102. Yes, he is massively undersized, but I've heard one of these and at first it sounds weird, but I've heard this comparison in terms of sports and being unique at your position, comparing him a little bit to Steph Curry. When Steph Curry came into the league, it was like no one was really exactly like this player, didn't really have that kind of skill set.
Right.
And there was massive question marks about, him being an undersized player. You look at Bryce Young, he's been undersized at every level of football, and he's played multiple years in the SEC with that undersized body against the best players in college football. And he succeeded. He is the ideal modern day quarterback, the improviser. I think he has pretty good vision, ability to read the field, has a great arm, can make every NFL throw. And I have Bryce and CJ 1A, 1B. The reason I am going Bryce here is because of the rushing upside. I know we saw that a little bit for CJ in the playoff game versus Georgia, but it's not been consistent for him. Meanwhile, we saw a huge leap this year for Bryce Young through the ground. So I'm really excited about what he could potentially do. I'm thinking like Kyler Murray type numbers as a rookie, with through the air and on the ground. I'm going to take Bryce Young here, 102. I think he's much safer than other options.
Yeah, no stress. I mean, everyone has, like Zach said, 1A, 1B. My 1A is actually still on the board, and that's CJ, right? So I think CJ is a guy that I trust a little bit more. I think the talents are, in my opinion, very equal. But I think what CJ has shown me and the way he's played against Georgia, and especially in the playoffs, I think that's exactly what the fantasy community needed to see, right? And if you guys haven't seen that, go watch that game, because they were even saying it on TV. This was probably the closest thing you will get to an NFL defense, right?
Yes.
A high caliber Georgia defense that CJ was going up against, and exactly what he was doing that day, the way he was improvising, the ball placement, he was reading defense, he was changing the plays, everything that he was doing is exactly why he is my QB1. I like Bryce. I think, once again, 1A, 1B, and I agree, they're both there. I think CJ just has the fuller package, in my personal opinion. But we're not going to find out until they actually get on the team, which is so exciting, because I cannot wait what happens.
Obviously, CJ
scenario
officially declared. You and I were like, guys, calm down. He's going to declare. But everyone's like, oh, my God, the world's falling apart. So he's declared. Of course, he's going to take NFL money. It's a top 5 pick. So I like CJ Stroud as well. And you're right. That game, some people might say, wow, you're really changing, or you're really solidifying something off of one game. What do you guys mean when you say that? Because you're facing the best competition. That's what we want to see from prospects, facing the best possible competition. And he did that. All right, I'm going to do something a little bit potentially controversial here at the 104.
Potentially.
I don't know how people feel about this, if they think this is too high. There's an interesting disconnect right now between the Dynasty community and people who do NFL mock drafts.
Right.
Or just people on YouTube who do NFL mock drafts, and like they analyze, because I feel like most of the Dynasty community is on the same page. They love this player, and then I look at mock drafts around YouTube and people are very low on him. But for me, he's one of only two can't miss prospects. The first being Bijan Robinson, the second being Jackson Smith and Jigba.
That's fair.
I will take him here at the 104. Actually, in my Dynasty Super Flex rookie rankings, and as far as rookie drafts go, he is currently tied at the 104 with another player. But for me, Jackson Smith's game translates so well to the NFL. Incredible route runner. I mean, just pop on a couple games of his film. You'll see a very special, gifted route runner. And I don't want to overblow it, but if you go watch that video where they're in a room with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, they're asking who's the best route runner. They're like, that guy is.
That guy
and they pointed, Jackson is the best in their opinion. I think he's a can't miss prospect, great hands. We talked about this before, but the contested catch rate at 90% was number one in the nation for wide receivers who had at least 55 targets. You look at a 90% contested catch rate. Chris Olave was at 62.5. This is in 2021. Garrett Wilson's at 61.5. London at 65.4. Treylon Burks at 43.8. And it was 9 out of 10. So it wasn't like this. That's a pretty good sample size. Great hands through traffic. And he's very good after the catch. So when I look at like a pro comp, I've said this before, but I'm looking at like a Keenan Allen, a Larry Fitzgerald, Cooper Kupp type player, even a little bit of a Amon-Ra St. Brown. And most people's concerns are the speed. I don't have that concern because we have seen so many examples of players who are incredible route runners and good after the catch, and they don't have to be the fastest player, and they're not absolute superstars. All those players I just talked about. Keenan has a 4.71. Larry Fitzgerald ran a 4.63. These are 40 times. Cooper Kupp ran a 4.62 at his 40. So you don't need elite speed to be an elite wide receiver. We have seen that be one of the most misused traits when scouting prospects. So for me, I think he's an elite wide receiver one on an NFL offense. I think he has the potential to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. And I think that he will go mid-first round, where the Olaves, where the Wilsons went, where the Jameson Williams went in 2021. So I'm very happy with him. And if he falls, he goes to a better team. So that's okay. I'll take him here at the 104. I feel very good about him here.
Yeah, I like Jackson Smith. I think if you guys go watch that, who's our wide receiver one, kind of understand where we're both at in those prospects, right? All right, so that is the 104 Jackson Smith, and my 104 is still available, and that is running back Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you're looking for another do-it-all running back, a guy that is projected to go in the first round, probably towards the end of the NFL draft, I think there is an opportunity there for you to really get a workhorse, right? He is a do-it-all guy, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, and everything is there, right? The workload, the opportunity. He played with Bryce. I will not be surprised if he comes in and will be the starting back immediately. Okay, the speed. I think he hits every level of what an NFL prospect running back is. Okay, the speed, the lateral movement, acceleration, burst, everything that we do in our gradings, he has hit the mark tremendously for me in my rankings. And hey, if you guys need a running back, I think there's only two running backs personally in the first round, in my personal opinion, in rookie drafts. Right.
That's gonna be interesting later on.
That feels exactly it is, because when we get to the draft, you probably get a second round or third round guy that's like gonna get opportunity. But these guys, Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, feel like the lock-in first round running backs that are going to come in right day one in NFL and get work. So I'm really excited. By the way, I have a really, really cool landing process for Jahmyr Gibbs. And it might be controversial, but I'm thinking the Chargers.
I love it.
Because a lot of people believe in Austin Eckler. I don't know if we have to talk about this. This is why I wanted to bring it up. Austin Eckler, he's actually on his contract year. His last year is with LA in 2023. So Jahmyr Gibbs.
Similar body size. You know, Eckler's not a huge frame.
Yeah, he's a pass catching back.
He's 205, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they get a younger, faster Eckler, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm a big fan of his. He was the other player tied at my 104. 104A, 104B is JSN and Gibbs for me. I do not think this should be a player that drops down boards. It absolutely should not. We are looking at a player similar to Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, who can play into his late 20s, around the age of 27, 28, 29. He is still an elite receiving threat in the game. So don't pass up on Jahmyr Gibbs. I know he's a running back, but he's not like some of these other running backs. He doesn't give you that same upside and won't give you that same draft capital, I don't imagine. Okay, here at the 106, I am very excited. And depending on how you see this, you're either saying this is too high or you're like, this player should have been your 102, you know?
Yeah,
like
100%.
There's people on both sides of the spectrum here. I'm going to go with the massive upside as well as the safe floor on the ground as a rusher in Anthony Richardson here at the 106. He is my quarterback 3. I don't fully understand the Will Levis hype. I'm trying to get there. Now, when we look at Will Levis, he's already 2 years older than Anthony Richardson. I believe Will be 24 as a rookie. And we're talking about him with this unexplored potential. Meanwhile, Anthony Richardson, a very similar player, I would say a bigger frame, more athleticism, is 2 years younger and has only started 1 year and has all these raw traits that you would want from an absolute superstar quarterback. I mean, extreme, naturally gifted talent at this position. Size, raw arm, mobility. I think he has pretty good IQ, and I think he needs to work on the poise in the pocket. But to be fair, at Florida, there was no one that he could throw the ball to. It was really tough. So I'm a big fan of his. You can make the Cam Newton comp. You can make the Dante Culpepper comps. I like both of them. For me, he has the highest upside of any quarterback in this class. And again, some people are in on Will Levis. That's fine. I just feel like if Will Levis was 2 years younger and less experienced, then I would more understand the whole conversation point around, well, he's got a lot of growing to do. Well, what do you mean? He's gonna get there when he's 27? Like,
right.
I mean,
right. I hear you.
Players obviously, like, there's a timeline for them to for things to click. And I'm not saying Will Levis shouldn't be a first round, because he absolutely should be. I'm just saying I'm Anthony over Will personally, and maybe that's a video we can make at some point.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so many different conversations that you can have about Anthony. So many different conversations you can have about Will. And maybe I'll get a little bit more into Will when we do get to that point. But yeah, Anthony Richardson here at the 1-6, I think is fantastic, and it's a good upside play, like you said. The upside's there, so that's exciting. All right, my next, we're at the 107 here. My wide receiver 1 still on the board. He's technically, top 5 for me. So I'm going Quentin Johnston, just declared probably hours ago to the NFL draft. Finally, there was a timeline here, and we're recording it on that day of the timeline, right? So the deadline, excuse me. But yeah, Quentin Johnston, he is my wide receiver 1. I think he's everything and more. 6'4", 215 pounds, and can apparently run a 4.4, or potentially in the NFL high 4.3s, which is incredible for a guy, once again, that is 6'4", 215 pounds. He's a do-it-all guy. He's a guy that can play in the outside or in the slot with the speed. I mean, short area burst is incredible. The yards after the catch is incredible. If I'm not mistaken, he was, I think, top 10 in YAC amongst wide receivers in college. And that's obviously with the minimum of 55 targets. So, look, so much opportunity, so much high ceiling for him. And I think wherever he goes, in my opinion, I know a lot of people can see this differently, I think he will be successful. But I love Quentin Johnston, 6'4", 215 pounds, who can run a 4.40. I mean, I think that's really, really crazy. So he brings everything and more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Quentin. We'll see what happens. I'm curious to see how the NFL is going to respond to that Georgia game. Difficult when you only get 3 targets.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand.
Your team was dismantled.
I can understand if he got like 10 targets and, like they were just feeding him the ball or something. Like, like we need to do more. But there was just no opportunity for him.
There was 3 targets. Some of them were pretty bad throws. And yeah, I'm curious. I've said this before, but I really like Quentin. I think there's a much lower floor, but there is a very high ceiling.
Yeah.
Like there's potential for boom bust there. All right. I remember at points in the middle of the season, people were claiming this guy as the next Justin Jefferson, the next elite wide receiver. You and I think he can be an elite wide receiver 2 on a team. That is the role we want for him. We don't want him to be drafted to a team and there's no clear guy that he can complement. Now, that's not to disrespect the player. Please don't go in the comments and be like, are you kidding me? This guy's elite. That is actually a compliment to be like an elite wide receiver 2. You are just as good as a wide receiver 1, but you're more suited to complement a big body guy. At the 108, I'm going to be taking Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. He is my wide receiver 3. I don't have him in the same tier as Jackson Smith and Jigba, though. I'm a big fan of his. You know, if you look at the numbers purely, you would say he didn't have as good of a season this year at USC. Right. But I think the context there is important because he was much more efficient at USC. He just had less production, less targets. In fact, he saw 65 less targets this year compared to last year at Pitt. So don't only look at the production. This is a guy who's been dominant from day one, broke out at the age of 18, which is in the 96th percentile. Dominator rating of 36%, which 35 is elite. So he's been able to dominate most of his career. I just have some concerns.
No, that's fair.
Okay. After the catch specifically, well, let me talk about the good first. Very good route runner. I will put him in the Olaves, in the Devonta Smiths, in the Jerry Judys of the world as a route runner, right?
Right.
So, very good route runner. But specifically where he struggled this year was versus press coverage on routes. And you can see the lack of strength being a real issue. He does struggle to fight off hands from a defensive back on the line of scrimmage. You're going to see a lot more press versus zone in the NFL. That's a little bit concerning for me. And that size, you also see that go into his yards after the catch because he doesn't have a big frame. And for whatever reason, he is twitchy. He is that elusive guy on his routes, but in the open field, we don't see that as much. Yeah. He's pretty easily brought down if you get your hands on him. There's no calling card he can kind of go to extend a play as far as like a juke, a hesitation, a spin. Typically after the catch, I felt myself at least wanting to see more. And then lastly, his hands have been a question mark, specifically contested catch areas. I know a lot of people are going to compare him to Devonta Smith. The difference is Devonta Smith is a very good contested catcher.
Yeah.
And he grew in that area in the NFL, but he was also much better coming out of college than what Jordan Addison is. Actually, Jordan Addison's contested catch rate is 22.2%. That's awful. If you actually look at wide receivers who had a minimum of 55 targets this year, that is 206th out of like 260. It's rough. Nice. And you can see it on film. Through traffic, jump ball scenarios, that is not Addison's game. So, again, I think he serves as an elite wide receiver 2 on an NFL offense who has wide receiver 1 upside. I believe Addison has the wide receiver 1 upside. I just believe he is more suited to an elite wide receiver 2 role in the NFL. My comps for him, like a Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods. Mm-hmm. And again, those 3 names specifically, Calvin Ridley thrived a lot next to Julio Jones. Tyler Lockett thrives a lot next to DK Metcalf. Robert Woods thrived a lot next to Cooper Kupp. So it's not an indictment on Addison. It's just I see some certain things that I'm a little bit concerned about. So I'll take him here because I think he's safe, but I think there is not this crazy year 1 top 5 finish upside that Addison, I don't think he has that personally.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And one thing I always like to say is I actually don't think USC utilized him in the best way, like to his ability. They use him out wide more than in the slot.
I agree.
I think he's a true slot receiver. This year, 75% out wide at USC and 23 in the slot. In Pitt, he had 68% in the slot in 2021 and 31% out wide, which I just think he kind of performed a little bit better at Pitt in the slot specifically. So, yeah, same concerns, same thought process of who Jordan Addison is for me as well. I think we're pretty even on that. Oh, he's my one. Okay. Yeah, we're pretty even on that. All right, my next pick here at the 109, and this is a guy that we were talking about when it came down to Anthony Richardson, and that is Will Levis.
Okay. Talk us through it.
Yeah, look, Will, I have a soft spot for Will because let me bring you through his attributes, right? I think he has everything and more. People compare him to the Josh Allen mold. He is a guy that hasn't necessarily developed everything in his arsenal, but he has everything ready to go in the next level, right? He has the arm strength. He has the ability to break tackles. He's really strong, right? I mean, can he read defenses? Can he do other things? Probably not to the best ability. And we actually really didn't see that because, in my opinion, if you go watch Kentucky's offense, I keep saying this, they were hindering him tremendously, right? all they did was screen passes, short plays. A lot of his passes were, 5 yards and short. There wasn't any deep ball passes. They didn't showcase his arm out of Kentucky. And I think that was because, they lost a lot of their talent. They had a bad offensive line. Wan'Dale Robinson left, and Will Levis was kind of working. That was his go-to guy, was Wan'Dale Robinson. But like I said, Will Levis took a massive step in like production and what he could have shown on film this year. But once again, I think all the attributes and everything in his arsenal is there to be a ready quarterback today with a good opportunity. So I still have Will one spot ahead of Anthony Richardson, because I do believe he is a quarterback that if he gets placed into the right system and he's going to get the full opportunity, he could be a successful fantasy quarterback, right? I can see he may not have the best passing, kind of like what Justin Fields had, but he was doing everything on the ground, right? I can kind of see that thought process and just him continue to develop. So I really like Will Levis. I still have a soft spot for him. Go watch, if you haven't looked at the film at Kentucky, go watch it and be like, okay, where do you see him being challenged as a passer with the play calling? I think that's really hard to kind of pinpoint, in my opinion. But let's see what happens with Will Levis.
I don't know what to think about him, to be honest, because I've watched his 2021 film with Wan'Dale Robinson, and it's fun to watch that film, but a lot of it is Wan'Dale winning for him. Like you said, screenplays, slants, putting Wan'Dale in space and letting him really dominate at the collegiate level. So we go on to the 2022 film, and even in 2021, I saw very much a one read, it's not there, let me pull it and run.
Right.
That's really concerning. You lose Wan'Dale Robinson, and then all of a sudden, the production's not there, the efficiency is not there, and you're not rushing the ball as much. Now, apparently, he had a toe injury all year that he had to deal with, so I'm going to give him grace there. Right. The offensive line, I know, was really bad, and you didn't have any weapons. But I think for someone who is being claimed to be a potential top 5, top 10 pick in the NFL draft, you would hope that that quarterback elevates the team around him a little bit more than what we saw Will Levis do.
I can hear that, yeah.
So for me, again, the quarterback position is very difficult to scout, but there's going to be a lot of people, I think, asking questions. Why the hell aren't you guys taking Anthony Richardson and Will Levis in the top 4? Like, this should be quarterback. I feel so much better about those other prospects. Their floor is so much safer to me. And at their own positions, they have top 5 ceilings. So I have just a lot of concerns, and we'll see what happens. I might just be wrong on Will Levis, and that's okay. Like, that's okay, because that happens every once in a while. You're just wrong about a player.
Yeah.
The thing about quarterbacks is you just cannot scout the mental part of someone's game. You don't know how they're going to be able to process the game in real time. You can see it in college, but you don't know how they're going to react to coaching and if they're going to be able to develop into that player who is able to read in full time. And both Anthony and Will are going to face that scrutiny and those questions.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question for the community, because I think this can bring an interesting conversation. Is there any team that you see Anthony going to where he could be the starting quarterback one day, but Will Levis is going to have the straight opportunity so hypothetically, I'll give you a hypothetical. Will Levis goes to the Raiders. Anthony Richardson goes to the Titans, right? They move away from Malik. He's going to compete with Ryan Tannehill. Where do you go? Do you go still with Anthony Richardson? That's probably going to sit for a year, or Will Levis there?
I would go Anthony Richardson personally.
Still like, okay, Ryan. Okay. I'm trying to think of somewhere else. I can't really think of one. I think
There's a very realistic scenario for me that if Anthony Richardson is drafted in the top 15, he sees playtime year 1. And I think he's the type of player similar to Lamar in year 1, when he, at the end of the year, had some opportunities where it's not going to look great through the year, but what he can provide you on the ground is so safe. We are looking at potential elite rushing production. Like the Justin Fields of the world here with Anthony Richardson. We think Will Levis can bring a little bit of that, but I don't think it's at the same caliber. So we'll see.
That's fair.
All right, at the 110, I'm going to get a little bit more controversial. I think there's been an overcorrection, an overreaction to this player.
I would agree.
Who has had obviously real struggles this year, and both mentally and production wise. But I think the overcorrection is too much. We're seeing mocks where he's going late second, and I'm thinking to myself, you are kidding me. This is potentially one of the most talented players in the entire draft. Outside of Bijan Robinson, there is a case, purely talent, raw talent, upside-wise, that this is one of the best players in this year's draft. So at the 110, I'm going to stick to my guns here. I'm not going to fall to outside pressure, and I'm going to take Kayshon Boutte. There's absolutely a scenario in my mind where Boutte is one of the absolute steals of the NFL draft this year. I know he's projected as a second rounder. I'm really struggling to think the Cowboys are on the board at the end of the first round and they don't grab Kayshon Boutte. I'm struggling to see that not happening. I still think he gets into the first round. Production, attitude, off-field reports, all that is what's bringing him down. That sounds very similar to a lot of superstar wide receivers in the NFL that we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And even a recent wide receiver that I loved the talent last year and people were too low on him, George Pickens. So I know I don't mind a little attitude in my alpha wide receiver. I don't mind a little passion. I don't mind a little like, I'm better than you, I'm going to show you, and just BDE, a little BDE on the field. So I think he's an electric powerhouse in the open field, such a strong runner. He's going to hit you in the mouth. He has that yak ability. I see a little bit of shades of Deebo Samuel, Golden Tate a little bit, Treylon Burks. I've heard some people use Stephon Diggs. I don't think he's as good of a route runner as Stephon Diggs is, but I think, if you're looking at absolute tippy top ceiling, I could see that potentially happening, and he's going to run a really quick 40. You're telling me right now, when we go to the combine and he runs a 4.38, you're going to still keep him in the second round of rookie drafts? Stop playing yourself. Stop playing yourself. You and your mother last year, this time, were saying that Kayshon Boutte was a number one wide receiver in this year's class. Stop playing yourself. I'll take him here as an absolute steal. This is going to be a versatile offensive weapon in the NFL who could potentially feature and be a top 15 wide receiver in his second year sophomore season in the NFL. So I'll take him here.
Yeah, 100%. I like Kayshon Boutte. And I think I am a victim of somebody that has heard all the outside noise, has been reading all the reports and saying, damn, can he really go in the first? And I'm like,
sure.
I put him down my rankings, and I was like, I kind of feel the same way that you're feeling. Like, damn, like maybe he is a talent. We just didn't see it, unfortunately, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And I think just to add on to that, like, think about the context here for a second, guys. Your entire coaching staff changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You then come back to a different quarterback, a different coaching staff. It's just difficult to get yourself.
It's tough.
Yes, you can make the case he should have had more maturity. He should have been there. But there are reasons as to why he struggled a little bit, and off-field issues. Like, we heard he ran a train. Whatever. I mean, some guys run trains. What can you do?
I mean, he was just having fun, I like to say.
I love that. By the way, I love that you said I'm a victim.
Yeah. I
think I'm a victim.
I think I am, because I have him so low. I don't have him low. I have him one spot lower than you right now.
Okay. But you did beforehand is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. I did beforehand. All right, so Kayshon Boutte is off the board. Now I'm on the clock at the 111. I think this one's pretty easy for me. Is another wide receiver, and that's Josh Downs. Wide receiver out of North Carolina, a guy I'm a little bit higher on than you. I do believe he's still a first round talent in rookie drafts. Will he go in the first round in the NFL draft? I'm not 100% sure. I do believe there's an opportunity where he can, but I think it has to be a right situation. But hey, another fast, twitchy guy could be in the outside or the slot. I do believe he'll be more of a slot wide receiver. But the hands, one thing I have to say about him, as I have been saying this all over, been in our live streams, the hands on Josh Downs is phenomenal for a guy that is literally 5'10", 175 pounds. He has the highest, if I'm not mistaken, one of the highest contested catch rates in college football in 2022, right? With 72% contested catches. He caught 13 out of 18 passes. And
that's actually really incredible. Like,
yeah.
That's a very incredible number with the volume, too.
Exactly, with the volume. And it's not like, hey, okay, I always say this, contested catches can be a quick slant, but contested catches can also be those big ones that you think of Mike Williams going down the field and he's just ripping it out of the defender. That's what he was doing, because he was targeted He caught 6 out of 7 targets of 20+ yards, which means he was going up there contested catching it. Not all of them. I mean, you could think about it, like that could have been blown coverages, whatever the case may be. That wouldn't count as a contested catch. But I'm just saying, the hands on him going up, playing like a big body guy at 5'11", in my opinion, is incredible. The production is there as well. He has had the history of playing with multiple quarterbacks as well, which is really good, which means he can go to not any team. He can go to a team on the NFL that is probably going to be struggling, maybe in a rebuild phase, and it's okay because there's going to be multiple quarterbacks, and he has that history with that as well. Dominator rating is great as well in college, and the production is there. So I love everything that Josh Downs can bring and be in the NFL.
All right, I like it. I'm a little bit lower on Downs, and there's two wide receivers I like more than him in my scouting grades. I'm still waiting to see if the NFL likes those wide receivers as far as draft capital.
I get what you're saying.
If they don't, I could see myself moving Josh Downs up, but I probably am too low on him. There's other guys I love. Okay, here at the 112, I personally feel like depends on what channel you're on, or depends on who you're asking and whose opinion it might be.
Right.
I feel like this is where we need to see a run of running backs. This is where early second, late first, early to mid second, you see a run of really good running back talent. And that's just my personal opinion. Some people might disagree, and that's okay. But at the 112, I have a new RB3, and I'll explain in a video I'll do later, this week. But I am taking Zach Charbonnet here at the 112. If you guys have been on this channel for any more than, I don't know, a couple months, then you will know this by now. But Charbonnet was personally my RB3 in last year's draft. I wanted him to declare. He didn't. The reason he didn't declare is because he wanted to win a Pac-12 championship, which he didn't do. But he also wanted to finish his college degree, check. He also wanted to improve as a pass catcher, check.
Right.
Huge check.
Jump.
Massive strides as a pass catcher this year. In 2021, he had 23 receptions. This year, 37. Huge uptick in targets as well. You can see it was a real focus point for them to involve him in the air. He had 320 receiving yards this year as well. And then you talk about him on the ground. We already felt like he was a full package, at least I did, on the ground. Angry runner, great athleticism. I think he finishes every run with power. He's going to smack you in the mouth if you're there. He was 13th in yards after contact, excuse me. And then what I think is a more accurate representation, yards after the contact per attempt, he was also 13th in the nation at 4.15. And of course, we do a minimum of 100 attempts when we considered those numbers. But I think he has very impressive vision, consistently shows an ability to identify the best running lane, and at times it can be creative behind the line of scrimmage. The combination of size, strength, vision, contact balance, that desire to push more, almost that Dameon Pierce type desire, got that dog in him a little bit. But I could instantly see him being drafted second round of the NFL draft, maybe third, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And I could instantly see him being a starter for a team. I'm saying first and second down work. You are getting that type of Brian Robinson workload, but you're a much better athlete than Brian Robinson from day one. So I'm a big fan of his. I see a little James Conner, Deonta Foreman.
Oh, Conner?
Jamal Williams. I see a little bit of that.
I like that. That's fun.
In his role. And the good thing is, last year you would have said he's probably limited to first and second down role. He has 3 down upside with what he's done this year as a pass catcher. So, you get that big body in space. I think offensive coordinators could be really excited about that. I'll take him here at the 112.
Yeah.
We're going into the second round now, and we're going to do 30-second quick-fire picks. Say something quickly about the player that you like, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, no worries. I like Zach Charbonnet, by the way. Really great guy. He's not my RB3, but the guy that's going to be at the 201 is my RB3, and that's Sean Tucker, a guy I believe is a do-it-all back. We talked about him. We love that he can do. I think he could pass the ball. I think he took great strides going into this year as well. We saw everything that he can be, right? And he had another step as well of being a pass catcher this year, which I thought was really great. The strength he has a little stocky body, but he plays strong in my opinion, and I like everything that he's doing. And I think he could be an all-down back in the NFL if he does get him, or if he does.
All right,
get an opportunity.
This is a huge name. that will be massively debated all offseason. I see some people who are kind of with me who they really like this player. They see the upside. I see other people who are massively disrespecting this guy, not even in their top 10 of running back rankings. I want to say this. Let me know if I'm wrong. I almost feel like it's the cool thing right now to hate on this player. I almost feel like it's cool to be like, yeah, bro, I'm with you. I think he's trash. And I think that as trash. Crazy as that sounds, I think that does have an impact on this community because the Dynasty community in the realm of communities isn't that big. So I'm going to go ahead at the 202 and take Zach Evans. I definitely am a little bit lower on him than I was last year, but I still see this incredible upside. 6 foot 215, which by the way, don't trust Twitter for any information. I'm just telling you guys. Because I was looking on Twitter the other day, and people are now bringing up a concern for his size. They're saying he's 195 pounds. Who told you that? Who told you that? I mean, PFF, ESPN, and Ole Miss's website, the college he goes to, everyone lists him at 215 pounds. Why are we spreading this misinformation all over the internet?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like, again, like I said, I think people just want to disrespect this player. It's like the cool thing, right? Oh, dude, you're also low on him? That's cool, man. Me too. Anyway, I like him. I think he has potential for a true workhorse load. Now, it's more likely that he's the first and second down guy because we didn't see a lot through the air, and that's a little bit of a concern. But I like the burst. I like the speed. Definitely not home run, but there is good speed, very good strength, not afraid of contact. I think he's a high IQ player behind the line of scrimmage, but unfortunately, there are times where he's not consistent with his vision. So that's why I did hold him back a little bit. But yeah, he's tied as my running back 4 with Sean Tucker. So I don't hate that you took Tucker right before that. I'm just probably leaning Evans at this point. Draft capital will be interesting, right? If Zach Evans goes out and gets second round draft capital, is everyone still going to hate him and have them outside the top 10? Let's see what happens. Let me tell you this, Badake. Zach Evans goes to the Dolphins mid-second round.
Right.
What do you think happens to the Dynasty community at that point?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to love it.
Come on.
They're going to love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Shades of Melvin Gordon, Miles Sanders. I'm a big fan. I think he's going to end up being a steal of the draft if he ends up going late second, like I've seen.
Yeah. Zach Evans is definitely an interesting player. I'm not as high on him. I wasn't high on him last year coming into this year, and I'm still on the same page. He's a little bit higher in my rankings than what he was before. All right, the 203 Devin Achane. He is my next RB off the board here, and look, he's just a fast. Probably one of the fastest running backs in this class. Probably the fastest running back in this class.
He's the fastest player in the nation.
And he is going to be a guy that's going to be a third down guy, a change of pace guy, a guy that you need a screen. You need a guy that can take you to the next level on the field. He is the guy that's going to do that. Pass catching ability is there. There's things that he needs to work on, but I think he has an overall decent workload. Not workload, but overall decent profile. It's just his size, just undersized, right? Imagine if he was 5'11". He's 5'9", 185 pounds. If he was,
my thing I worry more about is the weight.
Yeah, so 185. 5'9". I mean, we've seen glimpses of that in the NFL. People go straight to damage pros, et cetera, et cetera. But I think he could. I agree. Now he could be something. Watching his 2022 film, there is opportunity for Devin Achane to be a guy in the NFL that is going to contribute in a way. We need to hope and believe that it's going to be a team that's going to give him just more than the third down work, because that's just going to leave him in like the 25 to 35 running back range in fantasy, which is just going to be stagnant there. Where can he take that next level into the top? The top 25. I'm not necessarily sure. Hopefully there's a team out there that can take him, but I like him here with the upside.
Yeah, I think he's one of those players, that speed, he probably becomes the fastest player in NFL when he's drafted. That's how he has true Olympic speed. Yeah. He's probably running in the 4.2s.
Yeah, he's a track star, by the way. If you didn't know, he does do track for Texas A&M as well.
Yeah.
Or did track.
So he's probably someone who ends up going way earlier than we anticipate. I'm saying like early second round. That could happen for this type of player. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think he can become an elite weapon. I'm not like top 3 in the running back position like others are. Right. But I think what made me more comfortable with him is not only does he have that speed, but he's also a very good pass catcher, and he showed that on film. So there's huge upside there as like a versatile weapon in the NFL. All All right, the 203, sorry, the 204, I'm going to make kind of like a boring pick, but I think it makes a lot of sense. We're talking Michael Mayer. Maybe it's not boring to you if you like tight ends. Michael Mayer, I think he's just a well-rounded tight end, not the most athletic tight end we've ever seen, but pretty confident he's going to get first round. He's going to be picked in the first round.
Yeah.
Like some people have him as like a top 5 player in this draft, top 10 player in this draft. So he's going to be picked in the first round. It'll probably be late, which means it's probably a very good landing spot. I'm going to take Michael Mayer here. It's not tight end premium, but this is the first time I feel comfortable taking him. I think I've said this before, but you could see him have a similar rookie year production-wise to a Pat Fryermuth, so I'll take him here at the 204.
Okay. My next at the 205 is your guy. I don't know if we want to talk about him, but I mean, it's Xavier Hutchinson. I think we both are in love with him. We both have him as our wide receiver 5 in this class right now. We see a huge, massive potential of what Xavier Hutchinson can be. He can be a wide receiver 1, an elite wide receiver 1, an elite wide receiver 1, or he can be an elite wide receiver 2. Honestly, I think no matter where he goes, he's should and going to be successful, right? And I think we both believe that the talent is there. Yeah, I mean, he's more your guy than mine, but I think we kind of both love who he is.
I could spend the next 20 minutes talking about him, but I'll just say a couple quick things. Incredible route runner, proven offensive feature, had the most targets in college football this year, 4th rated wide receiver according to PFF, 4th rated as far as a route runner according to PFF, great contested catch ability, good size, good versatility. The only reason he's not a first-round wide receiver is because he's a little bit older. He went to JUCO, and he didn't play at Ohio State or Alabama. So I'm a huge fan of his. I could talk about him forever, but we would be here a long time. I like the pick. Now, this is one of those players, like I said, where draft capital is important. I think he'll end up being a third-round pick, and if he gets that kind of capital, I'm happy to keep him here.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't, he ends up 4th, 5th round, we have to reconsider. All right. At the 206, I'm going to take another wide receiver. I'm a big, big fan of this guy. He's another one of those players who is probably everyone's sleeper. If not, he's going to end up being like a consensus early second. That is Rashee Rice out of SMU. Very interesting player. 4 things in particular that I really, really like about his game: size, versatility, contested catchability, and the yak game. This is kind of similar to Kayshon Boutte. You know, it's not a complete comp, but as far as in the open field, a really strong runner, difficult to get down. Now, he does need to improve his drop rate. He had one of the highest drop rates in this class at 9.4%. He's going to be playing at the Senior Bowl. I'm excited to see him, but I see a little bit of shades of Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Pierre Garçon. I'm very, very excited about his game, so I'll take him here.
Yeah, my next guy will be, I like Rashee Rice, by the way. My next guy would be Tank Bigsby. A surprise, a guy that I wasn't necessarily excited to scout, and then I scouted him again in 2022. And he showed some great glimpses, in my personal opinion. I like what he was doing with his size, right? I mean, he's 6 foot, 213 pounds. And look, with a guy that size and a guy that, he doesn't have the overall speed, but I think the yards after the catch was incredible. And I think he was top 15 in yards after contact. Yards after contact, he was 17th. And then yards after contact, when he was averaging those yards, was 13th, which I think is really surprising for someone like Tank that is not necessarily a massive workhorse guy. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to come in. He's going to be a third down guy. He's going to be a guy that say, hey, we need a first down. Here comes Tank, and then he could potentially break it, right? Or we're going to get a touchdown. He's going to potentially break it. It's kind of the thought process of how I thought what Dameon Pierce was going to be coming into this season. I think he's a bigger and slower Dameon Pierce, but I think he plays with the same passion and the same force. And I like Tank Bigsby moving forward.
I almost view him as I personally think his role is first and second down.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think so as well.
Brian Robinson.
I think so as well.
You said third down, so I think clarify there.
When you come in and be like, all right, it's 3rd and 1.
You're saying short yard scenarios.
Exactly, short yard scenarios. I guess I kind of mixed that up, but yes, short yard scenarios.
Okay, yeah. I agree. I like Tank Bigsby more.
Yeah.
Watching him this year. I think he could be a real steal no matter where he goes. And maybe we have him too low, but there's just so many players we love.
Yeah.
And this player we definitely have too low. But again, there's so many players that we love. That is Zay Flowers out of Boston College. Big, big fan of his. Great speed. I mean, not elite, but definitely well above average. Pretty good after the catch. I think he has very good IQ in the open field. Versatile player. I think he probably lines up in the slot in the NFL. Great production. He has a career dominator rating of 36.1%. Has a little bit of a drop issue, but I've said this comp before. I'll stick to it. Eddie Royal take a little
Royal.
time machine back with me to the early 2010s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Eddie Royal, I'm real big fan of his. I think he becomes a productive slot wide receiver, likely second in target share in an NFL team. So I'll take him here. I think it's like this second round is so good, man.
Yeah,
I love the second round.
It's so good. It's really good. My next guy here, and he's my guy. He's my Xavier Hutchinson, and that's Parker Washington. I love everything that he can be. He's probably one of the most stockier guys. He has a little bit more weight to him, 5'10", 215 pounds. But to be honest, I don't think he looks like that. Maybe I'm tripping.
I think he does.
Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe but like I was looking at him, because we're doing a video on Parker Washington, so keep that in mind. And I was like, damn, he actually don't look like 215. But maybe once again I'm tripping. But I like everything he's doing. I like the elusiveness. I like his hands. Really great hands contested catch. He has 71.4% contested catch rate, which is really great. Which is tied for 12th amongst wide receivers in college in 2022. That's obviously a minimum of 55 targets. And everything that he does, I think he is a perfect slot receiver. He can play out wide. If you haven't seen the Penn State versus Ohio State game, that was his breakout. That was the game that set him apart. That was a game that was like, he can be something, and I like what he can do and where he can go. I just hope the opportunity is there. I think right now he's projected to go in a high early third. So I think he could slip into the late second, which could be really, really great. But I like where Parker Washington is right now.
I'm with you, man. I'm a big fan of his. Another one of those players, I wanted to move higher. I just couldn't. But
Yeah.
specifically his hands, very, very good hands. Weird to comp him because of the size. He's a running back, but playing wide receiver size-wise. All right, at the 210. Oof.
Is this the guy that you said there's somebody I have high, but I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if I should say anything. And I was like, I think I know who it is, and I think I have him somewhere similar.
This is when I finished my scouting grades. I was like, oh, he's that high. Oh,
right.
Oh no.
No.
I'm scared.
Right.
Let's talk about Israel Abanikanda.
Anaconda. That sounds weird.
I'm a huge fan of Izzy. If you want to, okay, that's a huge name. What do I call him? Izzy, because that's what he's been called in the past. But this guy pops on film. He will be my sleeper running back in this year's class. When the combine hits, he will probably be everyone's sleeper running back in this year's class. There's a very high chance that he's running a 4.35 40. Probably the second fastest running back in this year's class after Devin A-Chain. Probably the second fastest running back 40 wise. I wouldn't be surprised. Special speed, really good short area quickness and burst. He's a good pass catcher. In 2021, he had a lot more receptions than he did this year, right? He basically his receiving work kind of slashed in half this year. And I think a big reason as to why is because you went from Kenny Pickett to Keaton Slovis. So you threw almost 2,000 less yards. You completed, you threw the ball 182 less times, and you had 32 less touchdowns in your offense this year. So that's going to be a big reason as to why Izzy's receiving work wasn't great this year, but he still proved it last year that he's a good receiver. Put this guy in space. I mean, it is going to be dangerous no matter how you do it. And he is a young player who doesn't have the mileage on his body like some of these other guys. Bijan Robinson, 539 attempts this year. Zach Charbonnet, this is over their college career. Zach Charbonnet, 566. Tank Bigsby, 540. Sean Tucker, 589. Izzy, 390. So he's still a young guy. Doesn't have a lot of mileage on him. I believe he's going to be 20 years old when he's drafted. So he's a young running back. I see shades of Cam Akers, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman. I think he's probably a rotational player, but has a upside to be a starter in the NFL. He's just not very good when it comes to contact or in power scenarios. He relies a little bit too much on his speed.
Exactly.
But that speed is special, and I think he could do some really special things in the NFL.
Yeah. I think what's really good. One thing I said, because maybe I need to rewatch it, because I didn't think he had the long speed. I think he is so quick in the short area. Like, he is next level. Like, it's really, really hard.
I disagree
to
with
get him.
enough.
But once again, maybe we need to rewatch it. Now that we kind of had this conversation, we can kind of talk about him a little bit more later on. Yeah. But I think everything that you said is good. One thing, the first person that came to mind, which sounds weird, was Rashad White. I think of that thought process of who he can be and where he can go. I think he's kind of similar too. I think he's a little bit shorter than Rashad, but he's the same kind of build and weight.
He's shorter. I don't think he has the same weight either, though. I think because he's a little bit undersized, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's at 210.
215, Rashad.
Is it 215? You might be right.
I think you said Rashad's 215 as well. So
is he okay? Yeah. You could be right. I more kind of saw like the Raheem Mostert, Cam Akers with like the speed,
for sure.
But I
for
get
sure.
It.
Okay, my next guy here would be Marvin Mims here at the 211. Another guy, guy, a guy I like. I'm a little bit higher than I'm extremely high.
No, this isn't too high. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm saying like I'm higher than Zach. Like I'm higher than you
are.
in who Marvin Mims is. And one thing I want to say is that if you don't know who his quarterback is Spencer Rattler. I think that speaks volumes to how Marvin has contributed throughout this year, right? I think he has all the great attributes to be somebody. I think he's a great slot.
It was Spencer.
Yeah, it is Spencer.
Was right.
Yes, it is. I'm saying like if you don't know who his quarterback was, it was Spencer Rattler.
Okay.
Because if you don't follow OU or whoever the case may be,
sure,
right?
My bad.
But yeah, Marvin Mims, a guy that I like. I think he's a great slot wide receiver. I think he's quick, he's twitchy, and he's just an overall good player. I think he does everything well to where I think he can just be a good contributor in the NFL. Personally, okay. And I think he's good at all levels. I think he makes people miss his elusiveness, his agility to kind of cut and turn and do all those things in space. I think is really good. Contested catch is definitely not the best, but I don't think that's where he shines. He shines more in the slot in areas where he put him in space and he utilizes his speed to take him to the next level. So I like Marvin Mims.
Yeah. We could have a whole conversation about my distrust in him, but it's not. There's too much time.
Yeah.
All right. The reason when you chose Marvin Mims, I was like, oh no, is because there is players that we're gonna get destroyed in the comments for not having in the
one player
in the top
specifically
24.
100%.
The next two players we're gonna talk about, obviously the draft ends at 212 here with me. This player, it is an incredible roller coaster that we've gone through this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Badake, do you remember when I brought up this player? I brought up this player mid-season. I was like, let's talk about this player.
Yeah.
I really like him. And then now I feel like even though I'm not, I feel like I have to be anti this player because of how high other people view him.
Right.
I love him. I thought he would be a huge sleeper, but now I think it's gotten a little bit out of control. At the 212, I'm going to take Kendre Miller.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Kendre. I like his game. I think he's overall a very well-rounded running back. But I don't see any elite traits. I don't see elite speed. I don't see elite vision or burst or pass catching ability. I think he can be a very good, well-rounded running back who absolutely no doubt has the opportunity to be a starting running back in the NFL. But that just more speaks to how deep this class is. I still want Izzy. I still want Tank. I still want A-Chain. I still want Evans, Tucker, Charbonnet. And I'm seeing a lot of people have him as their running back 3. Some people they're running back 2. I can't get there. I don't see the elite traits that you guys see, and I could be wrong, but it's such a weird swing of emotions because I went from like his biggest advocate to now maybe having to be the guy who is not on the train with Kendre.
Right.
It's really tough. I love what he's done this year. Obviously put up big numbers, but again, I don't see any elite traits when I put on the film. I see a very good player. I do not see any elite traits, and that's why I can't put him higher. I'm sorry. I wanted to be the conductor. I wanted to be the leader of Kendre as a sleeper this year, but I can't get there. I think if he does become a running back 1, which by the way, right now, this will be interesting because the NFL is not in on him yet. No. I'm not saying that they won't be, but his projected draft capital is like 5th, 6th round. So the NFL is not in yet. And now that could change.
Is he going to be ready for the combine? There's so much conversation that we
hard to say. I don't know the injury, but
yeah.
So we'll see. Is this someone the Dynasty community is in on, and the NFL is like, oh, he's fine. But my pathway for him to being like a very fantasy relevant player is so much like Chris Carson. Chris Carson, I don't think he'll be drafted that late as Chris Carson was, but I see similarities in their game, and he's one of those players who's really well rounded, strong guy. And can show that in training camps, which would lead to potential work in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I see more of a floor of like a Ronald Jones, a Kerryon Johnson. Again, like a very good player in college. I'm just not so sure. And obviously his size is different to those guys. But there's unfortunately not those traits that stand out for me where I can put him as high as ever. I wanted to be that guy.
No,
I can't. I'm sorry.
I'm there with you. When I finished my scouting, he came out to be my RB10, and I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not as high on everyone. I don't know where he's at for you. Maybe that's even lower than you. But yeah, he is just not the guy. I think
he's my RB8.
I think it's a similar pathway. We kind of have him even, on that bottom half of, or the middle half of that running back group. So it's interesting to see, and I think a lot of it is going to weigh on the NFL Combine. So
he's my RB8.
Yeah.
I wanted to have him higher. I was like, damn, I just can't put him higher. And the other player that I was like, oh no, people are going to be annoyed. But I can already see the comments. No Jalen Hyatt? Where's Jalen Hyatt?
No Cedric
You don't have Jalen Hyatt here?
Yeah. There's two people there. I think a lot of people will be upset about.
Jalen Hyatt is like the biggest do you know ball test this offseason. And maybe that's just me overvaluing my own opinion.
Right.
Probably is, right? Because I could be very wrong on him. But I just genuinely don't understand how anyone can put on his film and see a first-round NFL wide receiver and a first-round rookie draft wide receiver. I don't see how that's possible.
I think why people like him is because of the speed. And that's exactly why he will get the draft capital. We've seen people with tremendous speed. I think the perfect example is John Ross. We saw him just go crazy in the 40. I don't think anyone necessarily didn't come into that year, in my opinion, and say John Ross is going to be a top guy in the NFL. It was like he ran the combine and then he was a first-round pick. And I think that's kind of the thought process of where I think that's the pathway that Jalen can go, where like, okay, he ran a good 40. Yeah. And he had some good hand skills, but like he's going to still get drafted at the end of the first. And people say, well, Jalen Hyatt, he went high, I
know. And I think he will be like one of the biggest, like if he ends up being a first round pick, early second, I think that NFL team is going to massively regret that pick. But there's so many red flags. First off, film. If you watch his film, the first 7 touchdowns I watched were broken coverages. Yeah. And I believe he had 1 reception versus press this year. So that's a huge question mark. I don't think he wins versus press. Low dominator rating throughout his career, only broke out this year at the age of 21, which is not everything, but definitely should be concerning. I don't think he possesses any elite or above average traits as a route runner, after the catch, explosiveness. I think at best he is Will Fuller, and more likely he's MVS. Okay. He's a deep threat, gets 3 to 5 targets a game, and maybe he's one. I saw a tweet the other day. Someone said that he's the next Tyreek Hill.
Sheesh. By the way,
what film are you guys watching?
Less than 30 seconds here for us.
All right, guys. Huge love. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments below why you think we're idiots and what you think we messed up on. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Huge love.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.